Now, with the blank and double game weeks coming up, you might be thinking about playing your wild card in game week 24. If you are, I've got a draft for you. Now, before we get into the draft itself, I thought it'd be worth just reminding ourselves of what the upcoming fixtures look like, right? If you're building a wildcard team in Game Week 24, you've got to do so with the fixtures coming up in mind. So Game Week 25 is a double game week for Brentford, Man City, Luton and Liverpool. Then 26 is a blank. Both Luton and Liverpool, who obviously double in 25, blank in 26, and then Tottenham and Chelsea blank in Game Week 26 as well. There's a chance that we have an additional double game week chucked in for Luton and Bournemouth. That could happen in game week 27, but most likely in game week 28. And then we have a blank game week in 29. Now, there are 4 teams at the moment that are confirmed to definitely have a game on in 29. The rest depends on the outcomes of FA Cup fixtures. Brentford, Burnley, Fulham and Tottenham, they all have a game in game week 29 at the moment. There could be some additional ones added. But yeah, we need to see how the FA Cup plays out to decide on that. But yeah, those 4 teams have a game in 29. So with that in mind, that should give you an idea of some of the players that are probably in this wildcard draft. So we're going to start off then with the goalkeepers and defenders. So in goal, I've actually gone for Kaminski. I think the goalkeeper, particularly with the double and blank in mind, you got 2 players that can occupy that one position. So it makes sense to have a nice rotation across the doubles and the blanks. And I think Kaminski is a really decent shout. You know, Luton, they've not been too bad in recent game weeks. They got Sheffield United as their fixture in game week 24, so I think you can quite comfortably start Kaminski for that game. And then they've got a double in 25. Now, I don't expect Luton to really keep a clean sheet in either of those games in their double, but Kaminski is an absolute save magnet, right? And I do think that he will return quite well across that double, just from the saves that he makes alone. Gabriel, Doty and Trent in defence. I mean, Doty and Trent, I'll talk about Doty later. Trent, I think, is obviously a fantastic option in FPL. He's probably one of the few good attacking Liverpool players that will likely start both games of the double. And of course, it makes sense to own him up for an upcoming double game week, right? Then Gabriel, he's a fantastic option. The cheapest, nailed on Arsenal defender, and probably has the most goal threat out of them as well. Dubravka on the bench, he can come in game week 26 when Kaminski blanks. It's not the ideal fixture, Arsenal being that fixture, but ultimately, I feel like on their day, Newcastle can keep a clean sheet against anyone, right? They've proven that in the past, and I think we could potentially see that happen against Arsenal, right? I mean, ultimately, it's up to you. If you want to change your goalkeeper, feel free, but that's the double up I've gone for. Branthwaite and Botman as my other 2 defenders. I think Branthwaite, he's probably the best of the budget options now. Gusto is a good shout, but he does blank in game week 26. Everton not looking too bad defensively, and Branthwaite is proven to be a bit of a goal threat from set pieces, so I don't mind him as an option. And then Botman, he obviously has Arsenal in 26, which I feel a little bit uncomfortable about. But similar to Branthwaite, he's offering some really good goal threat this season. And who's to say that Newcastle can't keep a clean sheet against Arsenal? Just to talk about Doty in more detail, I'm not saying if you're not on your wild card, I don't think it's important to immediately rush him in your team, because I think you can probably get better options. But if you're on your wild card, I think it makes sense to have a little bit of a punt on him. He's playing in a really attacking position. Yes, he's being deployed as a defender in FPL, but he's basically playing as a left winger in recent games for Luton. I'd argue, although he's not been necessarily amongst the returns in the last couple of games, he's one of Luton's, if not Luton's best and most important player. And Luton in general, they've had no issues scoring goals, right? Even against the top side. And I mentioned when looking at the fixtures, they might have an additional double in game week 28 or 29 as well. And just looking at his returns across the season, right? 7 assists, 1 goal and 2 clean sheets. Well, that's 10 returns in total from 18 starts, which for a 4.5 million defender, I think is pretty strong. If you compare him to, I don't know, centre-backs, for example, if you had a centre-back at 4.5 million that kept 10 clean sheets from 18 games, I mean, you'd be pretty happy with them, right? And that's the kind of upside that Doty offers you. Yes, his double in game week 25 is tough, Man United and Liverpool, but I wouldn't rule out Luton scoring in those games. They've really proven to be able to score against anyone, and I think he's a really nice option, particularly if you're on your wild card. Midfield then, I've gone for Palmer, Jota, Foden, De Bruyne, and then Garnacho on your bench. I think Garnacho will cover you quite nicely for game week 26 when a couple of these players blank. I think Palmer speaks for himself, really. Fantastic budget option in the game. On penalties for Chelsea, obviously proven to be dangerous from open play as well. This team is basically built by, you need to save your transfers basically until game week 25, and then you need to make 2 to build an 11 for game week 26. That's the way this team is set up. But I think if you're on your wild card, it makes sense to fully load yourself up for the double game week in 25. So Palmer or Jota, they might be a transfer outcome game week 25 because you need to build a team for the double. I mean, you know, we might get a decision before then. One of them might get injured or something and force our hand with transfers. But that's just a little caveat on that midfield. Obviously, Palmer's a fantastic option. Jota, I really like him. I mean, I don't think there are many Liverpool players that will guarantee to start both games of the double. But with the form that Jota is in at the moment, I think he's one of the most likely. He's got Burnley in game week 24. I genuinely think he's a decent captaincy option for that game. And obviously the double in 25. Foden and De Bruyne. I mean, Foden's in unbelievable form for Man City at the moment. Obviously, just scored a hat-trick against Brentford. De Bruyne, comparatively with Salah, I'd actually say he's probably a little bit better over the next few game weeks. Obviously, Salah's injured at the moment, right? But if someone said to you, Liverpool have a double game week in 25, your immediate thought would be to get Salah back into your team. And if Salah is fit for game week 25, then that obviously creates a bit of a difficult decision. But I think even if he is fit for game week 25, I'd still suggest that De Bruyne is a better option, particularly if you're on your wild card, because he doesn't blank in game week 26. Now, I just like the thought of having a player that plays, what's that, 4 fixtures over the next 3 game weeks as opposed to just 3. And I think De Bruyne has proven, you know, in games of recent, he's in and amongst the attacking returns, right? So I think he's a really good option. Yeah, just to expand a bit more on De Bruyne, I mean, he's definitely one of Man City's most important players. I do think his minutes might be restricted a little bit in the double in 25, but I think he'll probably start both of the games. And he's got favourable fixtures coming up in general as well. I feel like, well, apart from the Liverpool game, you know, those are games where he could potentially return in each of them. And he, of course, the important thing is he doesn't blank in game week 26. Not only does he not blank, he's got a decent fixture against Bournemouth in there as well. I think Man City are likely to double again. You know, if they have a blank in game week 29, that's going to have to be replaced by a double game week later on in the season. And he's putting up some really decent numbers, right? He's got 4 attacking returns and he's started 3 games. I mean, that's really, really nice. So, yeah, comparatively with Salah, at the moment, I think he probably takes the lead just because he actually plays a game in game week 26. Up front then, I've gone for Tony, Haaland and Darwin Núñez. Now, I think Haaland kind of speaks for himself, really. He's back fit, playing for Man City. I think he'll probably start both games of the double. I mean, it's genuinely a triple captain option, I think, in game week 25, isn't it? Darwin Núñez obviously plays Burnley up next and then has a double in 25. Obviously, similar to Jota, I mean, you'd question whether he's going to start both of the games in 25. But I think with the impact that he can potentially have off the bench, I don't really think if it matters if he starts both. He'll get minutes in both, and I think he can be dangerous even off the bench. To be honest, off the bench, I think he could be even more dangerous than starting a game. You know, coming up against a tired defence, the way he can physically bully and dominate some defenders, I think he could be really dangerous, even off the bench, right? I just think the two of those are really nice. I'll talk about Ivan Toney in a sec. I really like Ivan Toney. I think he's genuinely one of the best forwards in the league. He's obviously nailed to start for Brentford, plays 90 minutes every game. He's probably the best penalty taker in the world at this point, right? I think he's absolutely fantastic at them. Obviously takes the penalties for Brentford. And without Mbumo in the team, he's taken the scoring position free kicks. He's got a double in 25. Obviously, it's against Liverpool and Man City, but he's got a great record against the big teams in the Premier League. He didn't score against Man City, just gone, but he did have a good one-on-one chance and basically created the goal for Neil Maupay. So he was really dangerous in that game. And he's relatively fixture-proof. He doesn't blank in game week 26, and importantly, he's definitely got a fixture in game week 29. So I really like the idea of going with Tony. If you just look back to the forwards, I think come game week 26, when you need to make some transfers for the blank, I do think Darwin to Solanke is a really smart move, particularly considering that Solanke might have a double in game week 28 or 29. So if I were to build this wildcard team, I'd probably do so with that sort of transfer in mind. And here's the team as a whole. Now, it's really difficult to nail down a squad value because it's going to be different for everyone watching this video, right? But the way I've built this team is it's with my budgets as my FPL team currently has, right? And I've built it with plenty of money in the bank. So everyone watching this video should be able to afford this team. The one caveat, and I kind of revealed it earlier, you kind of have to make this team in mind that you're going to make some transfers for game week 26, right? Because you can't really build an 11. Well, you can't build an 11 in this team at the moment, ready for game week 26. The couple of transfers I'd eye up, I'd probably say Darwin to Solanke in game week 26 is a smart way to go, particularly considering Solanke might have a double in 28 or 29, or 27 or 28, sorry. I think Solanke could well be a triple captain option in those game weeks. One of those game weeks, he could have Sheffield United and Luton at home in a game week, which I think is a really good option to triple captain him. Another one, you could sell either Palmer or Diogo Jota. I think Jota could become Bowen come game week 26. Palmer, of course, could go to someone like Pedro Neto, someone like that. Although I do think with Salah going back into the frame, you'd probably want to get rid of Jota come game week 26. But, we might get more information as the game weeks come out, right? One of these players might get injured or just be chucked out of the team, basically. I mean, we'll see what happens. I think we need to let time pass before we make any hardcore decisions on those. But yeah, that's the team. And that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it useful. I mean, even if you're not on your wildcard this week, I think it's helpful just to watch these kind of videos just to see who I think are the best players in the game. Let me know in the comments if you change anything about this team. I do feel a little bit uncomfortable about facing the blank in 26 at the moment. So there may be one or two positions you change for players with a confirmed fixture in that game week. Let me know in the comments if that's the case. If you enjoyed the video, please leave me a like rating, subscribe to the Golden Goal channel, which should be just there, and I will catch you in my next video.